Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sarah and this is Rich and Sarah Learning as We Grow.
Baby, we're children of summer, we're meant to be free. Hearted, we're not like the others, no reason to be.
Guys, today's video is going to be a little bit different than most of the videos that you'll find here on our channel. You usually find day in the life of a mom videos, homeschooling videos, what we did in a day, cooking videos. Today I'm going to be talking about a disease that I have been suffering with for the past year. It's called IIH, or known as Idiopathic Intracranial Hypertension, also called Pseudotumor Cerebri. I felt the need to be more candid and open with you and talk about this really since day one, because this vlog is a lot of the times kind of like a video diary of my life and my family's life, my children's life, my husband's life, and what we are going through, the ups, the downs, what we're going through in society as a country, all that sort of thing. And so I want to not just document the good, but I also want to document the bad or the scary or the uncertain. So having said that, if you look back to my videos from about a year ago from now, so like last December, you'll see when I was first diagnosed with IIH, Idiopathic Intracranial Hypertension. 3 little letters that terrify me, but also gave me such peace and thankfulness. Let me explain to you why. I want to start this video off and kind of preface it with letting you know that if you are somebody who is newly diagnosed with idiopathic intracranial hypertension or pseudotumor cerebri, I want you to know that there is hope, and it is not a death sentence. It doesn't mean that now that you have a diagnosis that your life will be any easier, but it also doesn't mean that it's going to be any harder. Yes, there will be challenges. Yes, you will have to put work into it, but you're not alone. And I want you to know that this channel is somewhere where you can come and see and hear, and there are days when I share our life and I share the good, but there's also days when I say, hey you guys, I am dealing with a massive headache right now, and it's okay to have those days, so give yourself grace there. I would love you to take the opportunity to go back and watch the video in the descriptions that I'm going to put here, where I first shared my diagnosis with IIH and what I was dealing with, because it was the most candid, most real moment that I would just kind of film little clips off my cell phone while I was in the hospital. I was hospitalized for it at one point, and I would share with you just everything I was going through at that moment. But I do want to backtrack. If you are not going to that video at this moment and you want to continue to watch this video, let me just kind of fill you in with what has happened to me in the last year and how I came about to get an actual diagnosis of IIH. So if you are some of my regular viewers, you might be wondering, why am I choosing to talk about this in today's video? And it really is because I have had a huge group of people and new followers who have come to the channel looking for answers, looking for hope and support, because they found my IIH video, my Pseudotumor Cerebri video on YouTube, and they have questions and they want to hear an update. And some of them, you know, when you're wandering in a dark forest alone, if you can have any little glimmer or spark of light to help light the path for you, it really makes a difference. And I wish I would have had somebody share this on YouTube when I was going through it, and I would love to be that little glimmer of hope. If you Google IIH, the list of symptoms is long and daunting and can be quite frustrating and quite scary when you don't know exactly what you're dealing with. I'll read out to you. Symptoms of IIH include headache, sometimes daily headaches and migraine, sometimes severe, not relieved by medication at all, hearing loss, impaired vision, or eventual blindness, memory problems, migraine attacks with unexplained triggers, nausea, pain behind the eyes, pulsating intracranial noises, shoulder and or neck pain, tinnitus, vomiting, and unexplained swelling and edema. And I can tell you today that I have experienced all of those with this disease. The exact definition of idiopathic intracranial hypertension says that it is a condition that occurs when pressure inside of the skull increases for no obvious reason. Idiopathic intracranial hypertension is most common in obese women or of childbearing age. That's not always the case, you guys. Sometimes it happens because of hormonal changes, shifts in hormones. It actually does occur in men. It occurs in children. It is a disease that they are still discovering more and more about. and it is very real, and it is kind of a silent disease because you can look completely 100% normal on the outside and literally feel like you are dying and being crushed on the inside. And it is important to join a support group. It is important to find your support in your family and in your friends, and it's especially hard, I feel like, for young moms who are battling this, because you have extreme exhaustion. You get pains all over, fibromyalgia issues, pains, and it is something you need to be honest with your family and your children and let them know this is a diagnosis. And you almost sometimes have to fight off like depression and anxiety from it, because you never know when one of these attacks is going to hit, and it is debilitating at times. So let's dive a little bit deeper into my story and my diagnosis, which is unique to me, and it's not going to be that way for everybody, but at least I can share with you my own experiences and hope that they help you find a little bit of peace and a little bit of resolution, and to give you some grace during this time when you are either newly diagnosed with this or just learning about it, or maybe you have a family member or friend or child who is suffering with it. I hope and pray that this will be a help to you. So it all started a little over a year ago for me. I am a mom to 3 little boys. I have a 9-year-old little boy and I have twin little boys. So my IIH, Idiopathic Intracranial Hypertension, and Pseudotumor Cerebri, you're gonna get really used to using these terms, you guys. It hit about a year and a half ago. It was around, let's see, it hit almost a year ago to the date. It hit around Thanksgiving, a little bit before that. And I can remember I was very stressed because I was a new director to our homeschooling group community. I'm homeschooling my 3 children. I'm working on a doctorate in education, and my husband was just kind of starting a new profession. And I normally handle stress pretty well. This is like, so I can remember that Rich, my husband, was coaching soccer for our oldest little boy, and I was driving to and from different soccer practices and just, you know, being team mom and doing all that kind of stuff, helping out there. And I just remember driving home one day, and my eyesight started to almost like I had a little veil, and since then I've learned it's called like a curtain, but I had almost like a curtain, as if I was like blinking one of my eyes. So if you blink one of your eyes shut and you can just kind of see like this line of black through it, that's what I had. And I was like, maybe I just have makeup in my eye or mascara or something. At the same time, I had been battling very bad sinus infections off and on, and I kept having extreme pressure on the back of my skull, on each side of my skull, especially the right side. And for some time, honestly, leading up to that, for 2 years maybe, I experienced terrible whooshing in the ears. That's all I can describe it as. It almost sounded like a whoosh, 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 like water was being shoved or like cycling through my ear, almost like a heartbeat with it. And that all started when I had my twins, like right after I had my twins, within that year. So they're 6 now. Last year they were 5, so that probably happened when they were about 2. And I can remember going from doctor to doctor to doctor, telling them that I just had this terrible whooshing sound in my ear, and I hadn't had the black curtain happen yet with the eye, but I was telling them I had this whooshing sound in my ear, and they all attributed it to hormonal changes. They said that I was anemic. They said that I had vitamin D deficiency. I can remember getting such bad pains in my necks and down my arms and down my legs, and it just felt like somebody was pulling and ripping at my arms and legs all the time. So I did everything the doctor said. I went on iron supplements, I went on vitamin D supplements, I went on all the kind of supplements I could think of. At one point I went to a doctor in like Beverly Hills, Thousand Oaks, out that way, West Side LA, and paid thousands of dollars of blood work and to see if I had Hashimoto's, thyroid problems, and I didn't. This whole time I was struggling with weight because I have always been really tiny my whole life, and even when I had our oldest son, I bounced right back from my pregnancy weight to within like 5 or 6 pounds of my pre-pregnancy weight. And then we had the twins, and I was on complete bed rest with the twins for 9 months, and I just ballooned out because I ate whatever I wanted and I wasn't able to exercise and I wasn't healthy about it. My twins were 7 pounds each, and they were like 8 to 12 weeks early. 7 pounds each, twins. It was a lot of baby I was carrying in there and placenta and everything else, and fat. So I could never quite lose the weight. I fluctuated with 20 pounds, then I'd gain the 15, 20 pounds back, then I'd lose 25 pounds, and I'd gain 10, 15 pounds back. And I've done that, the whole yo-yoing back and forth up until last year. When I probably got to my highest weight, and I started, you know, the whooshing was still happening, extreme fatigue, the arm and extremity pains, muscle fatigue. At one point I thought I had MS, I thought I had lupus, everything, Epstein-Barr, everything came back negative. And they were like, you're just an exhausted mom. In between all this, I was having major panic attacks and anxiety, and it got hard for me to take my kids places because I loved them and I wasn't depressed, but I was just like so fearful all the time that the whooshing was going to interfere with driving them to the beach or just whatever. And it really started to steal my joy and my life, and I felt like I wasn't able to be the best mom that you know, that God wanted me to be. And so then I went and I told them I was having this anxiety, and the doctors all said, it's a part of your vitamin deficiency, honey, it's part of that. You know, there's nothing more you can do. You're probably hormonal still, you may be postpartum. But this went on till the twins were 5 years old. So that October, November of 2019, I was in and out of my doctor's like every 2 weeks, 3 weeks with sinus pressure. What I thought was sinus pressure. Terrible, just, oh, pain in here. It felt like, the best I could describe was almost like there was a hook like grabbing the inside of my eye and pulling it through the back. There's times when I felt like something was pushing my eyeballs from the back of my skull out, and I'm like, they're just gonna bulge out one day. Like, they're just gonna pop out. And I would tell everybody, I would tell my husband, I would tell my parents, I would tell my mom. And I think everybody tried to understand, but at some point they just thought like, this girl is complaining all the time and nobody's finding anything wrong with her. So my doctor is an internist and internal medicine doctor, and he put me on all different kinds of antibiotics. I feel like I was on every single super strong antibiotic for sinus infections that you can have. I was on Flonase. He told me to take, oh, the worst, you guys. He put me on Sudafed for like weeks because he said that it was sinus pressure and we just needed to like get it out. Well, Sudafed's like the worst thing for intracranial hypertension, but he didn't know I had it. And it was just basically perpetuating the problem, making it get worse and worse and worse. And then my sinus pressure that I thought was sinus pressure was building, but it wasn't that. It was building the pressure in my head, the Sudafed, even worse. So this went on, not to mention the Sudafed did not help my anxiety, and I was getting more and more anxious. And I can't remember crying out to God, and I'm like, I just don't know what to do anymore. And then I started thinking, you know, the curtain started happening in my eye, and that went on for like 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a month, almost right till Christmas, right before Christmas. And I thought, it's just, you know, it's just my eye, it's just, you know, maybe I just need my glasses adjusted because I already needed glasses for driving at night. So my mom's like, you know what, just go to like Lens Crafters. And just because that was what was open, it was a weekend, she's like, I'm tired of hearing it, go to Lens Crafters. It got so bad, you guys, before I went that afternoon, I was like 2 nights before, I was laying down with my kids in bed, and I would get these like weird, intoxicated, almost like headaches, where I felt like the room was spinning and I couldn't focus my mind, I couldn't focus my actual sight on anything. And I remember just laying there, and you ever have those feelings where, maybe if you're a migraine sufferer, you know, where it's like the world is whooshing past you, and you know it is, and you're coherent and you can hear everything, but you don't have it in you to like lift your head and look around and even see because your head hurts so bad. So I can remember just like laying on the couch after the boys went to bed, and like my husband would be watching a movie, and I can just remember like hearing the movie, but like if I looked at the television, my eyes hurt so bad with bright lights. And when I'd go to get up after laying the kids to bed one night, I went up and I stood up off the bed because I fell asleep with them, and I blacked out. Like, I didn't fall to the ground blackout, like my eyes blacked out like for 20 seconds. And this went on for like a week, and I would tell my mom like, do you ever have that? And I called the doctor, and he's like, well, that sounds like it's just the anemia, like it messes with your eyesight, and maybe, you know, you're not getting enough, I don't know, vitamin. So finally, one Saturday afternoon after a soccer game, I was cleaning out the car, I was vacuuming, I was taking out all the soccer goals, and again, as I was bending over to vacuum, my eyesight went out for 20-30 seconds this time. I called my mom and she's like, I think you need to go to the eye doctor. And I'm like, I can't wait till Monday. I'm so anxious. I can't wait till Monday. And I started thinking the worst because Dr. Google, you know, I started Googling it and everything led to a brain tumor. And I was like, Mom, I think I have a brain tumor. And I had said this like weeks before. I said, Rich, what if I have a brain tumor? And everybody's like, oh, you're a hypochondriac. Like, you don't have a brain tumor, right? And so we go to the doctor to lens crafters because that's all that was open that Saturday. And as I sit in the chair, I'm like, well, you know, my eyesight's kind of bad and I think I have a brain tumor, haha. So I'm just having you check to make sure there's no brain tumor. And she kind of laughed and she goes, okay, we'll check the pressure in your eye. That's the part that checks for the brain tumor, which you don't have. And I said, okay. And she goes, so we're gonna go check your eye and don't worry, I'm sure it's just an adjustment to your glasses. So the tech does all the normal eye exam tests with me. You know, they have you cover one eye and say what letters are they and what numbers and the colorblind test and all that sort of thing. And I do it and they don't say anything. Then they take all these visual pictures of my eyes and they don't say anything. And they said, well, you're gonna wait for the doctor. So I go sit in the little room and the doctor comes out and she starts looking at my chart and she's getting more and more quiet. And then the next thing I notice, she's like, I'm gonna look into your eye. So they dilate my eyes and she gets that big like scope thing and she starts looking into them and she's silent. And she goes, just a minute, I have to go to the other room for a second. And she goes away and she's gone like 35 minutes. And she comes back in and my mom went with me, but they wouldn't let my mom in the room and my mom's in the waiting room. And I text her, I'm like, Mom, I think something's wrong because she went away for 35 minutes. She hasn't come back. She like ran out of the room, you guys. She acted as if she just saw like something terrible. And when she came back in, she was like trying to compose herself. And she goes, you need to go to the emergency room immediately. We found something in your eye. There's either a mass or something that's causing extreme pressure on your eye. And I started crying. I started freaking out. I'm like, is it a brain tumor? She goes, well, we don't really know. Typically, I'm going to tell you, Sarah, when we see somebody like this, it usually indicates a sign of a brain tumor given the symptoms that you've shared with me, you know, that you've been having, the headaches and everything. And she goes, you need to get to the ER right away. They need to do it. Even as I'm saying this right now, you guys, and reliving it, it's like, it's hard for me to think about an MRI of your. So I call my mom in and she starts explaining the same situation to my mom, what's going on. I know my mom's freaked out, but she's trying to be strong for me and she doesn't want to let on that she's freaked out. And I'm like, I'm in shock. So we get home and I'm like, I don't want to go to the hospital. I want to talk to my doctor. So I, you know, call my doctor, my physician, that's my family physician, and I start telling him everything. It's like Saturday night at like 9 o'clock at night by now. And he's like, okay, I think we need to wait till Monday and we need to get you in to a really good ophthalmologist. And I have a friend and call him Monday morning. So I call him Monday morning. I go the whole weekend so fearful and I start Googling. I start researching anything and everything this could be. And God is so good that one of the first things I saw, just happened to glance at it, was something called IIH. And they go, it's really rare. It's like 1 out of every, I don't know, 200,000 people that gets this. And I thought to myself, it couldn't be that. Like, what are the chances? But it kept coming up in my search. And you know when something, if you're a believer, guys, and a follower of Christ, like when something comes up like that and you feel a peace in your heart, you start to wonder, like, maybe that's God trying to tell me something. So that's kind of how I felt when I would read that. But then probably the devil was working on my brain, and then I would say, no, it can't. I'd doubt, and I'd say, no, it's got to be a brain tumor, because everything mimics a brain tumor. That's the thing about this disease, you guys. It mimics a brain tumor to a T, except when they go to do an MRI, there's no brain tumor, but everything feels the same. The nausea, the pain, the discomfort, the headaches, the migraines, the vision loss, like it is exactly like a brain tumor, but there's no tumor. So we go to the doctor that week, that next week, and he starts looking in and does all the same exams and says the same thing. And he says, Sarah, I have done this for 30 years. Given the fact that you're overweight, which is like, I know I am, but you don't want to hear it from a doctor, but you know you are. Given the fact that you're overweight, given the fact that you're hormonal, given the fact that you just had twins within the last 5 years, given all that kind of thing, there is a chance it's this thing called idiopathic intracranial hypertension. And he started explaining it to me, how everything about it I just told you. And I said, do you think it's a brain tumor? And he said, I can't give that information out. And he says, but I don't think it is. And he says, but I can't be sure, we have to do an MRI. And he goes, we're gonna schedule an MRI, we're gonna schedule a dye test, a dye MRI, we're gonna do a spinal tap, a lumbar puncture, all this stuff that I had never even like imagined. And I looked at him and I said, well, what do you think the chances are? He goes, in most cases it's 80% chance, that likelihood that it is a brain tumor. And he goes, but I'm hopeful for you. You have youth on your side, and I'm hopeful. And he said, given your age and some of the, you know, hormonal things I've gone through. And he goes, but like I said, it could be. So it was about to be Thanksgiving weekend, and he says, we can wait, we'll do this December 1st. And I said, okay. And then, like, the most terrifying thing, so what happened next truly just had my heart sink, you guys. And we were driving home, and I was feeling the whooshing, I call it whooshing. It's like a tinnitus sound. It was unbelievable in my right ear and my left ear. And I had all this like back and neck tension, and it was so bad. I remember just like sitting like this the whole way home. My mom drove. I'm like, I can't even drive and I'm nauseous. And she's like, well, at least you're on the road to the right track. So we go and we pick up dinner. I have got the boys in the car with my mom. We're gonna go tell Rich what's going on as far as like what they think, and my dad, and just our family, and tell them everything. And I get a phone call from the doctor's office that I was just at. And it's his assistant, and she says, is this Sarah? And I said, yeah. And she goes, honey, the doctor had a neurologist go over all of your exams and all of your eyes and everything like that, and your vision tests and the pressure behind your eye, and you need to, don't walk, you need to run to Huntington Hospital immediately, and you need to basically, you're having a lumbar puncture done this evening with an MRI. We are not sure what's going on, but we know that whatever is happening is you cannot wait this out over Thanksgiving weekend, and you cannot go another minute like this. And we don't have any real answers for you. The MRI will tell. I was a mess. I was a complete basket case at that moment. I was crying. I was crying on the phone. Lady, I went and I ran to my mom, and I couldn't even get the words. I was like, Mom, like I couldn't even get the words out to tell her what they had just told me, because that's my fear, that kind of phone call. So I think Rich was showing a house. He's a realtor, a new realtor. We met Rich at the hospital. My aunt came and took the boys, and they did CAT scans, CT scans, and they couldn't do an MRI that evening because it was so late. They had to wait till the next morning. They tried to do a lumbar puncture in the ER because they just wanted to get me out of this pain. And so if they could do a lumbar puncture, that actually they take out some of your spinal fluid to lower your spinal fluid pressure, which in turn should help the eye pressure on the optic nerve in the back of your head, back of your eyes. And God bless her, the ER doctor tried like 12 times, and she could not get to my, I don't know how you, I guess my spinal fluid. It was the worst pain ever. I was terrible, and it wasn't terrible because the spinal tap is so terrible. It was terrible because she was not an actual radiologist doing it with the flora, I think is what they call it, technology to pinpoint right in between the vertebrae where they need to go. She was just doing it by like guess, because she just wanted to try and get me out of pain until morning. So she couldn't do it. They said, we're gonna admit you, and we're gonna get a neurologist to you in the morning, and we're gonna figure out if this is a brain tumor or what's going on here. And they told me the same thing, this mimics a brain tumor. And they gave me Zofran, I think, for nausea. And the next morning, they did all kinds of blood work. Bright and early, they wheeled me in to MRI, to imaging, and they did several MRI exams. They did them with dye and contrast, without dye and contrast. They were looking for aneurysms. They were looking for possible like thrombosis of the veins. They were looking for brain tumor. They were looking for everything. And then they wheeled me immediately after that, because they don't want to do the spinal tap or the lumbar puncture until they've that has to come after the imaging, the MRI, because if you lower the pressure by taking out the spinal fluid, you won't have an accurate reading on the MRI. So right after MRI, they wheeled me in to do that, the spinal tap. I was so sore from being poked at and punctured so many times the night before. If you do have to have a lumbar puncture, lower lumbar puncture, spinal tap, anything like that for this disease, it is not terrible, friends. I'm here to tell you, it hurts and it's not fun, but it's just a lot of pressure and you can handle it. You can do it. So they do your spinal pressure and they read out what your opening pressure is. And they have to be very delicate and careful because you don't want to get paralyzed. I have had several epidurals before, and so, you know, they knew about that. And, you know, they have to make sure that no infection gets into your bloodstream. They also do testing on all of your spinal fluids to make sure there's not something else going on. So they ruled out MS and cancers and all that kind of stuff. Once they were in, it was quick and they took out a bunch of vials of it and they tell you your opening pressure. My opening pressure, I think, was 39, which is like very high because you should be at like 16 or 15. 39, you guys. So we wheel back over, neurologist after neurologist after neurologist comes and sees me because they'd never seen this before in person. It's something they'd only read about, right? 1 in 200,000 people have it. And they came to me with the good news. They came to me with some of the best news ever, and they said, it's not a brain tumor, Sarah. We could not find any brain tumor. We could not find any signs of an aneurysm, thrombosis, stroke, anything. We believe what you have, after everything we've done, every test came back negative. We believe you have something called Idiopathic Intracranial Hypertension, otherwise known as Pseudotumor Cerebri. That was the best darn thing I ever could have heard. I was praising Jesus, thanking God, and they even told me the same thing, the statistics of like 80 to 85% of the time when we see this, it's a brain tumor. And I just knew, I had pleaded with God the night before in that hospital bed that my babies needed me still and that I needed to be there for him. And I just knew God wasn't finished with me. And I didn't know why, because it's, you suffer so much with this disease, you guys, and it's like I said, it's silent, because half the people you'll meet and you'll tell them you have this will never actually know or believe how bad the symptoms are, because you appear normal and put together on the outside. And there's a ton of silent suffering that you do with this as well. There's a ton of outward suffering you do too. And so I knew when I was going through that, YouTube and stuff like that, and I am a Christian and I am a believer and Jesus is my Lord and Savior, and I knew that God wanted to use me to share this story with others. And so I don't know if it touches one other person or helps one other person in their grief or in their moment of fear, then that's it. That's what it's all worth. And so the long journey continues, right? So they put me on something called acetazolamide. And acetazolamide is a drug that they typically give you for altitude sickness. So if you're gonna climb, you know, I guess Mount Everest, I think that's a really high mountain, right? Mount Everest, or you have altitude sickness when you fly to really high altitudes, or you're gonna stay in a really high altitude because you're going skiing somewhere or something, they'll give you acetazolamide because it lowers the intracranial pressure in your brain. So something else that happens to you with this is, and part of the reason why your eyesight is in jeopardy of being lost unless you get on something like acetazolamide, there are other pills as well, is papilledema. I can never say that quite right. Papilledema, papilledema. And it is a serious medical condition where the optic nerve at the back of the eye becomes swollen. Symptoms can include visual disturbances, headaches, and nausea, and it occurs when there is a buildup of pressure in or around the brain, which causes the optic nerves to swell. Well, I have an amazing optic neurologist, and I love him. And I know he's a godsend. Like, he is the dearest man, and he's been working with me this whole time, and so they don't really know what causes it. Like I told you, there are some triggers that they suspect cause it. Weight gain, hormonal changes after pregnancy in women, and I definitely had both of those. So I've been working with him very hard the last year to lose weight. I'm not perfect at it. I still have a long way to go, you guys, but that combined with acetazolamide, it is helping. So I will tell you, they started me off with acetazolamide. I was taking 4 250 milligram tablets every day, so 4 tablets a day, which is 1,000 milligrams. And so I've done that for almost a year, and then I've been, you know, losing weight slowly, losing, you know, it's not drastic. I've been doing like 2-3 pounds here, 2-3 pounds there. I've been walking more lately, and I had my last checkup December 1st, and he cut my dose lower. He made it even lower, and so now I'm on the 250 milligrams 3 times a day, and I could probably even go to 2, but we're keeping it at 3, he said, until the next appointment, which will be soon. And you know, still trying to lose that 2 to 3.5 pounds a week. And I'm gonna tell you guys, it is helping a lot. It is not to say that I don't get the headaches. In fact, I keep a journal. So I'm begging you guys, keep a journal if this is something that you're suffering with. When, you know, get a calendar and decide what days are your headaches the worst, and then start tracking it over the months, and you'll kind of see. So for me, I know that my headaches get really, really bad around ovulation time, and I hypo-ovulate, which means that I ovulate more than 1 time in the month, which is why I have twins. So I have a lot of estrogen happening. And he said when you have estrogen, a lot of estrogen, your brain is bathed in estrogen every single morning before you wake up. And that could be a cause of the headaches. Combine that with my weight gain and the cortisol that your body holds onto and releases with weight gain, and I probably have a perfect scenario for IIH. So somebody asked me a few questions I've had, but is this something that ever gets better? Do you always stay that way? Well, I'll tell you, in my experience, it is getting better. And I've noticed that right around ovulation time, the headache's really bad. And then right before my period, like a day or two, like I can tell you, I have the worst headache for months now, the day before my period, and I honestly know my period's gonna start tomorrow. I'm gonna menstruate, and that is why the headache is so bad the day before. So I really do think it's triggered with hormones for me. But is this something forever? Is this debilitating forever? I don't know that 100%. I do know that I am feeling better when I do certain things. For instance, when I drink a ton of water in a day, like 96 to 100 ounces of water in a day, because this medication also has a tendency to dehydrate you. I feel amazing when I have more water in the day. When I stay off of, honestly, dairy products such as like milks and cheeses and butters, I feel a lot better. If I don't have as much gluten in my diet, I feel a lot better. I have toyed with the idea of trying to go vegan, and I did feel better for a little bit when we did it, and then we went to Texas, and I just cannot keep being a vegan in Texas. We went on a trip, and I gained some weight during that trip, you guys, and man, did I suffer like for weeks after. I've gotten one of the side effects of the medication is you get heartburn and indigestion, so just make sure you take like a the Tums or Mylanta, and that's, you know, that has to do with your acid reflux in your food. We've been walking. My husband and I have started walking with our kids like 4.5 miles a day. That really helps tremendously because it gets all that fluid just running throughout your body. I did start drinking bone broth the last month maybe, and hot teas, peppermint tea. I'm trying to think what else. A turmeric tea is very helpful, and these are all things that help it. I don't know that it takes it away, but I think ultimately what they've told me is they really think dropping all of my weight will put me into remission. Yes, it is something you can go into remission from. We're just not sure, and science just and technology, you know, nobody knows for sure where that lies, kind of thing, if that makes sense. So they technology wise, they can track it, and you can track and see your progress, but nobody actually knows for sure if I dropped, you know, 50 pounds tomorrow, would I for sure have the symptoms? I hope not. I do have an amazing support group on Facebook of people. Life with IIH is the group, and some of them have dropped weight and still have the symptoms. Some people have noticed when they you know, go through menopause or something, the symptoms go away. So we don't really know all of that. Okay, so I got a a message the other day, a comment on the vlog, and it is from Pippa Phipps, and she says, did they say if this is long-term? Just been diagnosed and haven't been told this and worried. So I would say, again, they don't really know if it's long-term or not. For me, it's been about a year and I'm still suffering with it, but I will say it's getting better. And I was concerned about going off of the higher dosage of acetazolamide medication, going on to the lower dosage. And I thought, oh, it's gonna come back, but it's not. And so my doctor actually told me that combined with eating better and the acetazolamide medication, when he first saw me and looked at my PAPS, is what they call it, your eye, you know, that nerve, my optic nerve was like at a 4, and he's like, and that's where you like lose your sight, at like a 5. He's like, you're like a 4, 4.5, and some people lose they go blind and you lose your vision forever. When I saw him on December 1st, he said he was proud to tell me that I was back down to a 1 and that I was not in danger of losing my vision, but that the nerves in the back of my head, the optic nerves, have been, you know, they get damaged and they get fried, and that they are slowly in recovery and that they will heal. And so I don't know if everybody's healed, or if you do what they tell you, drink the water, start losing the weight, and take the medication, if that is what helps you to heal, which is what I'm assuming. So I don't know how long-term it is to answer your question, but I do know. Another thing that has been very beneficial and helpful to me is massage. The healing power of touch and massage is amazing. So my mom will do like shiatsu massage on the back of my head, just over here, just all over, sinus, lymphatic drainage. I recently got these really cool back massagers for Christmas, and I'll just kind of run that along here. For me, a hot shower helps. Some people say a cold is better. So typically I will take a really hot shower. This is probably not great for you, but it helps. I will put ice packs on the back of my neck and the back of my head right here, and that really, really helps with the inflammation. Another thing that they'll tell you is to take a banana or a lot of leafy greens, because it does lower your potassium, which can increase muscle cramps and spasms. And you also can get kidney, well, not really kidney failure, but you can get kidney stones. So you have to keep up on that water a lot, because it's dehydrating your kidneys and depleting them constantly with that medication. Aside from massage and the ice and all that sort of a thing, I always sleep at least a 40 to 45 degree angle, sometimes even more. They say some people it really helps just to sleep up in a recliner like that, because when you just lay, like if I were to just lay flat on my bed, oh my goodness, the pressure would just be severe and intense. So I always sleep with a ton of different pillows, at an incline as much as I can. And this little guy came in and so it's almost comical to see me in bed at night. It's this whole thing. Rich laughs because I have like 6 pillows, like all this stuff, but it is all helping. I also bought a weighted blanket. I've had several of them, but I found a really good one at Target, and something about the weighted blanket just on you is so calming, and it helps your anxiety from it. You want to be really careful, because when you get anxious or stressed, it can help it causes the headache to get worse sometimes. And so a lot of times I'll think I have this like terrible, you know, I'll call the doctor and I'm like, I think my vision's gonna be bad, I need to get checked. And he'll check me and he'll go, no, it seems to me like you were honestly just having a stress headache or a stress migraine. So try to limit your stress as much as you can, and honestly, really, really baby yourself. Take permission to just take time for you, for yourself, because your children, your family, your husband, your spouse, you can't be the best you if you are not taking care of yourself in many ways. So find a hobby. Sometimes I crochet or I'll read, and it's okay to have bad days. The medication that I'm on 150% depletes your energy. So there are days when I am just exhausted and I'm dragging and I just can't make it. I feel like take a nap. Even a 20-30 minute little refresher helps. But the one thing I'm struggling right now is getting better sleep, because they want you to have like 8 to 10 hours of sleep, and it's just hard as a mom because I homeschool, and that is like really my only time to just have for me in the evenings, and I put up the vlogs or just whatever and catch up on shows, binge watch. And so if I could get my sleep in better order, I think I would feel much. Well, I hope this video has been beneficial to some of you. If you are new to the channel, please hit that red subscribe button so that you can see more videos like this. I share my whole journey with you. I take you with me to the neurologist. I share my daily life. I would love to keep in contact with you and just be there to support each other through this. It is not forever. It is just something that we are dealing with right now, and it is something that we will persevere through. And just as a community, you know, that we know we have one another and that we have that hope with each other. And I just am praying for you, and I would love to know who you are so I can give exact prayer requests for you. I'm here for you if you have any questions or just need to talk to somebody ever. And I love you all, and you will be okay. We will get through this together. All right, guys, have a good night. Bye.